Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. If you didn't know, I'm currently not in Georgia. I'm currently in Southern California, visiting family for the holidays. And one of the things I want to talk about is just how the state is kind of like the Titanic, right? Do you remember the movie James Cameron's Titanic in the 90s? One of the lines I remember was I think one of the crewmates saying like not even God himself could sink this ship. And then the ship sank, right? And that's how I feel as a native Southern California about the state because I remember I left the state in 2015 and I remember visiting Georgia and I was like, "Oh my goodness, there's so much opportunity here." And all like how can a house be $200,000 here and that same house will be like 800, $900,000 in California. And this was like in 2015, I think. Maybe the prices weren't that high back then. Maybe they were like 600, 700,000. But I was just like amazed how cheap gas prices were, how much opportunity there was. And I was like, wow, like, why didn't anybody tell me about this? And then I packed my bags, moved to Georgia. It was kind of hard to survive, to be honest. But I have two homes now, right? And one of the things that I notice while just being here is how a lot of people just don't really seem to care about home ownership. Like it's not. I don't think it's that they don't care. You ever ever encounter people who say that they don't care about things, but the reason that they don't care is because they're kind of jealous? Like you ever encounter that? I feel like sometimes when people can't attain something, they just want to block it out of their head and say, "No, no, this is impossible. I can't do it." Right? And I think what's sad is that this used to be the place to make it and the place for opportunity. But what happened is that instead of, fearing having a healthy amount of fear of failure, people were just kind of arrogant, kind of like the people in the Titanic. And they just thought like, wow, even God himself can sink the ship. And now we're at a place in life where most people who grow up here, pretty much the majority of people who grew up here will never be able to buy a home where they grew up, right? Like I'm in my parents' house right now, and there's a house across the street that's three bed, two bath, and I think only 1,800 square feet in total that just sold for $1 million. And I have a 2 acre property that I bought for like at $100,000 discount for like 210, right? I have a 2 acre property. I literally have a farm. It's in a rural area, and I also have my own home in a three bed three bath home that I bought at full market value. I kind of regret buying it at full market value, although it's a nice place to live. But I wish I bought it at a discount. But the point is that if I had just stayed in California, I think I would have just been depressed that my life was going nowhere when it's actually the environment and not me, right? Like you ever hear about those stories about like immigrants who couldn't make it in their home country and once they're like in the United States they're like flourishing? It's kind of almost the same story with California, right? Like if I just stayed here in California, there definitely would not be a Korean California or maybe Los Angeles mentorship, right? There's a reason it's called Korean Atlanta mentorship because once I left the state and got my head together, I'm able to, I'm on the path to success, although, who knows what the definition of success really is. And here I am just showing you pictures of a TV show from the early 90s. This is, I think, like a copy of Saved by the Bell, and I think it was like on the same TV network, NBC in the morning, called California Dreams, right? I mean, just think about like just the title of the show and the type of people that are there where it's like cool hip youth, it's the beach, you can make it, this is where your dreams are. And now fast forward from 1992 to 2023 and look at the articles that I'm reading, right? So I saw this, I did a Reddit search or Google search, and Google just usually points to Reddit nowadays, but it says only 16% of Californians can afford to buy a home. 16%. So, and I guess that's like the big surprise, right? Like when I'm in Georgia, I kind of feel ashamed that I quote only own two homes, right? Because I'm surrounded by people who own like multiple homes, and like one of our instructors for real estate owns like has like a controlling interest in like over 300. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm behind, right? But then when I come back to California, it's like, no, 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 no. I'm just owning one home puts you ahead of like most of the population here, more than like 80% of the population. And if I own two homes, I'm like ahead of like, I don't know, 95% of the population. And it's insane just how so many people who grew up here just accepted that everything was going to work out okay without like any sort of thought into it, thinking like, hey, are we in the Titanic? Right? You ever notice that? Like, especially back in the day, like back 10, 20 years ago, kind of like how nobody ever questioned the value of college. Like, what? Questioning the value of college? Are you insane? Back then, nobody ever questioned that if it was a good idea. Like, would you ever leave California? And now the ship is sinking, right? And if only 16% of the people can afford to buy a home here, right? That pretty much excludes almost the majority of people, especially if you grew up here and you're starting out in life. And I don't know if you ever seen that Babylon B skit where there's like the realtor showing tents that she's a real estate agent and she was showing prospects tents that they can buy. That's kind of like a semi half truth, right? So here's the actual article from Bloomberg, right? Only 16% of Californians can afford to buy a home. Buyers need a $208,000 income to qualify for a 30-year loan. And I don't know about you, but I don't think any of my friends who I grew up with make a minimum of $208,000. Or maybe they do. Maybe they do. I know some people who bought, maybe they live in like Irvine, California, and none of them ever seem to own an actual like home, single family home. They own a condo, right, for like $400,000, and the single family home would probably be at least a million, just like a regular single family home in that area. But I don't get it. I don't get it, and it seems like the people here, in general, are just not here for it anymore, and they've just kind of escaped, right? And if you take a look at this is like, here's how many people moved out of California in 2023. And this is published in December 29th. So this is one day ago. Today's December 30th, 2023, right? Excuse me. And it says people leaving California for Arizona in record numbers. And so many people have left California, celebrities, right? Jessica Simpson, Mark Wahlberg. And here's the funny thing, you can only move when you're rich, right? Moving's really expensive. So those of us who are actually here, we're just left behind, but we're probably left in just kind of either living with their parents or probably substandard housing or an uncomfortable housing situation, right? But here it says 75,000 Californians left in 2033, which actually I don't think is that much. You know what's funny? As I was driving around, I feel like the roads seem a little bit lighter and maybe it's because it's the holidays, but the roads in general just seem very less congested in Southern California than these days than when I left, right? And so, so a lot of people moving Texas, Arizona, Florida, Washington, Nevada, and there's all these other articles about people leaving in record numbers. But you know, times have changed. We used to live in a country, not in a country, in a state where California is where you went to make your dreams. Hence, we had literally had a TV show in the early 1990s called California Dreams, right? Remember that Tupac stuff, California Love? There's not going to be a California Dreams TV show in 2023. That doesn't exist because this is just a place where rich foreigners buy homes, or you make over $200,000 of combined income for your house, right? That's how you get a single family house and become a homeowner, right? But it's just the state of the world today. And I'm really curious. Out of all the people that I know, who has actually bought a home, who grew up here, who's actually bought a home, and that's part of the California dream. Heck, I even asked ChatGPT if buying a home was part of the California dream, and it said yes. And then I asked, like, hey, ChatGPT, um, was it easier for a person with an 8-year-old with no money to buy a home in 1950 or in 2023? And ChatGPT said 1950. But, you know, there's a book, and let me just end with this, called Good to Great by Jim Collins, right? I've actually never read the book, but I've heard a summary about the book, and it's like a business development book or business leadership book, I think. And one of the things I heard about the book, and I should read it soon, was that one of the things that makes a business on the path to success is having a healthy fear of failure, right? And the thing that Californians lacked in general, just as a native Californian, is a fear of failure. They just thought everything was going to be okay. And if you were the person who said, hey, there's probably an iceberg on the way, and we should be a little bit prepared for that, and didn't have the mentality, like, if you were the person who didn't have the mentality, wow, even God himself couldn't sink the ship, you were kind of looked down upon, right? And it's kind of sad that so many people in the state had all that hubris and ego, and then wondering why um, we're at the state that we're in, right? No pun intended. All right, so what do you think? Are you from California? Do you live in California right now? Can you afford a home? If you can, you're probably rich, so you'll probably want to join this group. Just kidding, but not really. But yeah, so let me know your thoughts. If you're interested in joining this group, go ahead and click the Google form link below, and then we'll get a one-on-one Zoom call. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. And almost one more day left in the new year, and we're off of 2024. And hopefully, you'll be able to buy a home, not just any home, at a discount, because that's how you create immediate wealth. All right. Have a great day, everybody, and we will speak next time.